Hello everyone, and welcome to my 10,000 subscriber Q&A special. If you've only subscribed recently, for my 1,000 subscriber special I also did a Q&A, but I don't really like it after rewatching it, and I believe I can do it better. This Q&A was held in my Discord server, which you can join with the link in the description below if you aren't already in it, and there I asked people to give me questions to answer. Now, other server members could react to questions that were already asked by giving them a like, and the more likes a question received, the more likely it was going to be answered here today. And I've got a spreadsheet where I've organized all the questions in terms of the number of likes, so let's get started. And the top question from Vileplume was, do you eat chicken as a chicken? Yeah, it's pretty good. Thighs, breasts, or wings from Quadrant, which is IO exception. Chicken breasts aren't really that good, at least in my opinion. I don't like how white the meat is. Wings are situational, I like getting them in a little basket, but I enjoy chicken thighs the most. Hentai or real porn? Guys, you do know my parents watch my videos, right? What do you want to do when you grow up? I want to be an engineer of some sort. The two fields that I'm interested in are civil and biomedical, but I haven't decided on a path yet, and probably won't until I go to college. Why do you still prefer mouse? That was the only input device I had. I couldn't afford a tablet and didn't know which ones to buy, even if I could, so I just played using what I had. Is flat justice? Well, I can't really comment on your preferences, but I prefer something else. How did you come to like piano and rhythm game music? This is a little known fact, but I actually used to play violin up until 9th grade, and I always loved playing almost in a duo, accompanying, I cannot say that word for the life of me, with the piano, like simultaneously, and then once I found that in Oasis, I just loved listening to that kind of music. And rhythm game music, although pretty general, features those instruments more often than not. What's your view on the tournament side of Oasis, and how far do you think Oasis can get competitively and maybe esports-wise from Stan, who actually hosts, when I say hosts, he hosts Oasis tournaments in his CES League Discord server, which I actually will include in the description below since I honestly believe it's really cool, and he's going to do something with Bed Wars soon, and hint hint, I might be playing in it. Anyway, how far do you think Oasis can get competitively and maybe esports-wise? Well, Oasis will always have a problem with copyright, and having 99% of beatmaps being stolen content, so I think that can be, or will be, a major issue if Oasis ever decides to go mainstream. When I say decides, it's not really a decision that can be made, but kind of just happens naturally. So I think in terms of tournaments, if that's the esport that you mean, I believe it can get decently far. I think tournaments are a great way to represent overall player skill. Although, if you have a weakness, it harms you severely in that kind of setting. The environment otherwise, registering to a tournament is a massive time commitment, and that's not for everyone, especially for someone like me who's trying to balance multiple other things. But other than that, if you are simply trying to become a better player, tournaments are a great way to do it, and I believe you can get pretty far. One simple fix that's possible to code into the PP system right now. What would it be? Requested by Not a Hero Fanboy. Oh goodness. Well, fixes to the PP system are never simple, but I think the one that would provide the least amount of headache would be nerfing difficulty spikes appropriately. Now, the reason why I say appropriately is sometimes the algorithm, which calculates difficulty, thinks there are difficulty spikes when in reality there aren't, and vice versa. So, if we can find a way to properly nerf difficulty spikes, regardless of where they are in the map, the beginning or at the end, then that would greatly improve the PP system. What artists do you want as featured? Zai, or XI, Ice. I'm trying to think of other artists that I've mapped, because I usually, when I map an artist, I usually like them enough that I want them to be featured. Primary is cool. I can't think of any others. Those three are the ones that I'd love to see. Although recently they've been adding a ton of great featured artists that even though I didn't list them, I would also have wanted them as FA. What happened when you were gone from YouTube for 7 months? Nothing. I didn't prepare anything massive or special or, you know, astounding during that 7 months like you would expect for someone who's gone for that long. I primarily focused on my academics and was recharging because I ran out of motivation for YouTube, and I was very insecure about the scripts that I wrote beforehand. That 7 months was basically me trying to get over that anxiety, and what you see now, which is this video and all of my recent ones, are me overcoming that anxiety and just posting the video anyway, even if I'm not 105% confident in it. I'm still confident in the videos. I'm not saying I'm uploading a video that I hate. I think those scripts are good, and I think the videos accompanying them are also good. But beforehand, I would want it to be absolutely perfect, essentially perfectionism, and that was so harmful to my mentality, and which was why I didn't upload that often. So I'm trying to put that aside, and having an upload schedule where you upload every week, it forces you to just discard that mentality and just make something because there's a deadline. And I still think you can make good content under a deadline if you're in the correct headspace. I hope that makes sense. Thighs or ass? Why not both? How large of a part do you think talent plays in improvement? Do you think players such as Vaxei or Emmerich have such talent? Talent is solely being able to understand when you make a mistake and how to improve on it. And some people are a lot more accustomed to that than others. Players like Vaxei and Emmerich have an astounding ability to comprehend when they make a mistake and how to improve on it. Emmerich is the better example because he live streams more often, so you can actually see that process in real time. Emmerich either misaims, makes a mistake, taps incorrectly, or doesn't tap at all for some reason, and he's like, oh, I've made a mistake. Now, for my next play, I'm going to focus solely on that. Well, maybe not solely on that, because if you hyper-focus on one thing, you're going to start deteriorating in other areas. But because of that, he's able to improve so quickly. So I actually do believe talent is a massive part of improving. It's just that it's not particularly a skill, it's just solely reviewing your mistakes and improving upon them. What's your ideal breast size? Oh dear, guys. The only thing I know about that, really, is that the cup system is alphabetical, and that D cup is larger than C cup, and you can continue the pattern in each direction. I know there are double and triple letters. I am not courageous enough to research what that means. I know, like, certain letters are just, like, absolutely ridiculous or unrealistic, but I think in between C and D is, like, is that average? Is that not average? You know what? We're just gonna move on. If someone were to pay you to cheat on Oasis and eventually get banned, how much would they have to pay you? How much is your reputation and hobby worth to you? It would be pretty corny to say that my hobby and reputation are priceless, but there's probably some point where I would accept it. Self-preservation instincts are really strong, and if someone offered me enough money to completely pay off my college and start my life off on the correct foot, I don't think you could slander anyone for considering that. How do you have human hands if you're a chicken? Who says I'm not a chicken? Overall, do you regret your experience with Oasis so far at all, or are you the opposite? The only real regrets that I have about my tenure in Oasis is some of the interactions I've had with some mapping or some mappers, and I wish I could revisit those moments in time and say other things or phrase things differently. But other than that, I don't regret my experience or time here at all. What is your opinion on the easy mod? Easy makes the game harder for people who are not accustomed to low approach rates, but the higher circle size and no difference in tapping between no mod and easy means once you learn how to read low approach rates and recognize patterns and how they appear, I think it can be an easier or at least fun experience. Favorite Dojin? Well, I've only ever read one Dojin, so I suppose that wins by default. That Dojin was one that was sent to me by one of my friends after I finished the Danganronpa franchise, and it was about how Sayaka, who was the girl in the first game, who died in the first chapter, established more of her background with her parents and her idol group. I believe it was how she had a distaste for her parents for some reason, and then she met Makoto, who was this amicable, wholesome, fantastic guy who would lead her on the correct path and inspire her to be a better person, and then she just dies. Whoops. Why did you learn Hard Rock over DT? Well, Hard Rock was the path of least resistance for me. DT was very difficult for me. I was not a fast player. I'm not a turtle, but I'm certainly not fast. So Hard Rock, which was more aim precision and required less speed, was much easier for me to learn. And don't make that mistake. Do not go down the path of least resistance, because the path of least resistance for most people is DT and DT agility, and there are a lot more skills than that. And I'm severely lacking in the DT field now because I neglected to learn it all those years ago. Anime or manga? I think anime is easier to digest, but manga is better because it's what the author actually wrote. But because I don't read much manga, and I think just sitting down at my computer and watching a good show is entertaining, I'm going to side with anime. What is your favorite music genre that Oasis has introduced you to? Definitely rhythm game music and electronic. At your current rate of growth, do you ever think you'll hit 50,000 subscribers? 100,000? That's a lot of subscribers, and I don't know about that. I think if I continue uploading, especially catering to the audience that I have, I think I could reach it. But if I'm doing more experimental stuff with different games that isn't going to be as well received or as clicked on or as viewed, then it would take longer. My answer is basically maybe. Why the name FrenZ? So I had a really embarrassing name or username from when I was 10. A few years ago, while I was in Counter-Strike, or playing primarily Counter-Strike, I was like, you know what? I need a new name. I need something that represents me as a great player, chill person, someone that people want to be around. And I thought of the word frenzy. Like, he's going on a frenzy. He's killing everyone in this match, and he wins the round by clutching it 1v4, whatever. It was FRENZY. So I thought I would remove the Y and then capitalize the Z. So you'd still say frenzy. But then 90% of the time people still say friends, so that kind of went out the window. Too bad I don't really correct people on it. And the only reason why I don't correct people about the pronunciation of my username is that I feel like it would be really bitchy. So, please say frenzy. It's literally the word frenzy with the Y, just with the Z capitalized. Who do you look up to when playing OS? Any all-rounder. People who can do multiple things to me are so much more impressive and have such a better mastery of what makes a rhythm game compared to people who dedicate most of their time to only practicing one skill. This game has so much to offer, and I almost feel like you're wasting it if you're practicing solely one thing. Examples of that include Carthy, Bubbleman, Cookiesy, Vaxide to a lesser extent. Those are the primary four. How difficult is the difficulty curve on mouse compared to tablet? The only real difference mouse has compared to tablet, and this is speaking from my mouse experience, I don't have any tablet experience, is that mouse can sometimes Tokyo drift on you, and not having absolute positioning. Not having absolute positioning is not as big of a detriment as you may think, as long as you have a clean mouse pad and a good understanding of your aim, then that usually won't affect you. Your mouse sometimes will Tokyo drift. Sometimes it just happens when the map flows a certain way or there's a certain pattern. But other than that, I think those two aspects make the difficulty curve a little bit harder. But I believe if people simply dedicated a little bit more time and didn't immediately switch to tablet because that's what all the top players use, I feel like they would be able to improve at that as well. When did you realize that you wanted to be an OS channel, and why? Well, whoever said that I did. I found the most amount of success making OS videos, but my ultimate dream is to be able to upload anything. Any game. OS, Minecraft, Fall Guys, Risk of Rain 2, and be able to maintain the same audience. And that is obviously not the case right now. So I'm still primarily uploading OS content. But yeah, it was really the success that I found with OS that I kind of augmented my content towards that, because that's an audience that you have to sustain, and that's obviously what they're expecting. And uploading content that does not pertain to that, it's kind of stupid if you do it like 3 or 4 times. You can be experimental and upload a side video like my Fall Guys video. Please watch it, it got no views. But if you do that repeatedly after you've built up an audience in a different aspect, they're gonna leave, or at least not watch those videos. I hope I can reach that point someday. I hope I can attain that. What's the origin of your avatar? Returning to my Counter-Strike days, I was playing on the old Inferno, has a CT, and there are multiple chickens in spawn. You can press E and they'll follow you, so I gathered like 8 of them, and went to Banana to defend it, and then one of the terrorists threw a high explosive grenade. And although I escaped, my 8 chickens did not. In order to memorialize those 8 fallen chickens who valiantly followed me into Banana, after a Google search, I found a chicken wearing some sunglasses. That was my original profile on YouTube, and then it was redrawn by someone who was paid accordingly later, and that's now my current profile picture. Favorite character from any series? The character that I enjoyed listening to or reading the most was Hajime from Danganronpa 2 because I related to him the most. The girl from Your Lie in April, I'm kind of disappointed I can't remember her name. Subaru from ReZero and Rem from ReZero, those two have such good chemistry together. Emilia was kind of a nothing burger and Ram just, is stoic most of the time. So any one of those 3 or 4 that I just mentioned. Favorite anime, because I just mentioned Subaru and Rem, ReZero. That concept is executed well. I liked it so much because after watching something like SAO, it didn't feel like wasted potential, and Subaru actually learned the kinks and the advantages and disadvantages of his ability to return by death, and he actually uses the disadvantages in certain situations to benefit him, which I honestly think is really smart, and shows that he actually is developing as a character. What was the last compliment someone gave you? Goodness, that is a difficult question. What I can first think of is one day when I went to school and I forgot my regular glasses at home, because when I say regular glasses, I'm wearing my glasses right now to read what's on my monitor, but I also have sunglasses that have a prescription too. And because I forgot the regular ones and only had the sunglasses, I just wore my sunglasses for that day. And people complimented how cool my sunglasses were, and I still remember that almost years later. I think it's been 1.5 years since then. What's your favorite thing to do with the community? Other than uploading videos for people to watch and enjoy, hosting things like this Q&A and simply playing games with members from my Discord server. Sometimes I'll just join my Discord VC and ask if anyone wants to play Fall Guys or play Among Us or something, and then people join, which is really refreshing and not a luxury that a lot of people have. So I understand how amazing it is to have people who are willing to do that, and that's why it's my favorite thing to do. What is your opinion on the upcoming PP change? Do you support it, or would you rather keep it the way it is? I'm assuming the second part of that, or at least the second question, is keeping the current PP system over the rework. And although I think the rework is better than live right now, I do not have much faith in it. Like, I'm currently in the development server, and I've read some of the conversations and contributed some of my own thoughts. But the problem that I have with it is that some of the top players providing feedback are very selfish. They have their own plays as first priority instead of making the greater system, or the system greater as a whole. That selfishness, along with difficulty spikes not being nerfed correctly, and some other blatant mistakes that feel pretty obvious, like that should have been addressed, that causes me to lose faith in the system. I think the rework is the future of performance in this game, but I think due to poor public opinion, rightfully earned, the selfishness of top players who want to preserve their own top plays instead of making a system that benefits everyone, severely dampens the potential balance of that new system. Why do you give these tips in general? Is it because you want to make OS fun rather than a job nobody likes? Or are you willing to make this game better for the future to make the experience of newer players better? You answered your own question. How has your experience with mapping in OS affected how you play the game and look at it? Heavily. Because of my mapping experience, I can understand why certain mappers make certain patterns and I can recognize them in a map, and when I play those maps, I understand why maybe a certain pattern wasn't such a good idea, or why that doesn't play so well. My standards for what makes a map good have raised significantly because of my mapping experience, which can make playing some maps instead of just turning my brain off and, clicking the circles. I actually think about why the mapper placed objects in certain places. And if there's one thing that I've learned, it is very easy to tell the difference between a mapper who considers where to place their objects and what patterns represent the song, and then mappers who simply don't give a shit and just place objects wherever. It is very easy to tell the difference, both as a player and as a mapper. Are you going to make more OS or related to OS videos? So I'm guessing videos still related to the game, but could be slightly different. Also, grats on 10K. Thanks, man. Yes, I know my audience is here for OS, and I have a ton of ideas related to that. So, yes, a ton of OS videos to come. Who inspired you to start making OS content? The only two people that really inspired me were Elish 2001 in 2017. He started more as a live streamer and then made videos later, and then Verto. Because Verto was the person, or at least the person at the time, that really made discussion videos that made you think. He also made shit posts, but focusing more on the discussion videos. Him and then Alish because of his great streaming personality, and who would push me, like personally contact me and push me to make videos. Those two really inspired me. How much OS do you approximately play every day? If you mean logging on to the game and actually playing, then if you were to average it out over a week, probably an hour and a half. But there are times when I map, and more of the time I'm offline, but I'm still making videos, or such as right now, recording. So I'm involved in the game typically every day, but I'm not always playing. Would you use a tablet plus mouse prototype if it was good, or would you rather stick to mouse? If it was good and affordable, yes, I would definitely try it. The only ones that I've seen are the tablet pen in a wiffle ball and the tablet pen in a tennis ball. That's not really realistic. So if they make a prototype that's easily accessible, then yes. What's the highest BPM you can stream? 210 to 215 when I actually warm up. And burst would be 260 maximum. I would say 250 is more realistic. Chicken or beef? If you're talking about like whether I would have chicken or beef at this very moment, I would probably choose beef because I just had chicken for my last meal. But if you're talking about something I'd rather have for the longer one, then chicken. And that's all of the questions that I've prepared for today. Thank you for listening for this long. It's probably been almost 30 minutes, and after some editing it'll probably be a little shorter. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for subscribing. I hope you learned something about me in some fashion today. And here's to the next 10,000 or 25,000 or however many more subscribers that I gain. I just want all of you to know, regardless of who's watching, that I appreciate every single one of you. And I think a lot of YouTubers have said that in the past, but if I were to try and fit 10,000 people in a single room, that would never work. I would need a stadium for that many people. And I believe that's absolutely ridiculous. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.